We have a
Okay.
ton of people watching live right now. They're obviously
Okay, definitely.
resonating with what you're saying. I would love for you to talk a little bit on what are the steps? I mean, is it really just as simple as, okay, Peggy said, I'm good. So, like, I'm good. And then we just keep doing the same thing over and over again in our lives and could sometimes still be miserable. Like, what are a couple of things that somebody should do in order to really step into this mindset of really understanding this fully?
Mhm. The first step, again, because of our conditioning, is going to be to read a book or two. So that book I mentioned a while ago, Rupert Spira, Being Aware of Being Aware. A woman named Catherine Van Oothuizen has written a book. She's written two books. I can't remember the name of the one right now, but she talks about the illusion and the scientists that. So it's a scientific explanation that it's an illusion that we're separation. But somebody can look up
Oh.
Catherine Van Oothuizen. I think it's called The Six Illusions, or maybe that's the subtitle, Six Illusions or Six something. But anyway, so those books would get one started. There are tons of great books, and there are tons of videos on YouTube. With, I mean, I have a YouTube channel, so I do videos on this on my own YouTube channel, so people could listen to those, or to people that are more. I bring it more in a coaching model, and a guiding model, and a business related model or approach and conversation. Um, but they're non-dual teachers. So Rupert Spira, Francis Lucille. Um, so there are tons of videos. But the reason we usually have to read something first or watch some videos is because this belief in a separate self, which is actually a belief, but it's consistent enough that it needs education. It's got to be somewhat brought along that there's a possibility that I'm not separate. And so we typically have to start by reading something. Then after that, it would be this self-inquiry approach, to where you start. I mean, some great questions. One is just, which is ubiquitous in this work, but who am I? And just being with the who am I, or what am I, or a great side component of that is on whose behalf am I experiencing this, or thinking this, or believing this. So those are some ways. And then, um, um, oh, what was I? Oh, then another one, which is incredibly powerful, while at the same time extremely challenging, is to not believe any thoughts we have about ourselves or other people.
Any thoughts?
Any thoughts. So we'll notice thought, and so another inquiry is to first notice where, and people can do this right now. It's very simple. So people can notice a thought. You can notice a thought that you have right now, and then ask yourself, where did that thought come from? In my experience. Now, our rational mind is going to say, well, it came from my brain, because we've been educated that that's where the thought comes from. But if we look at our experience, where's that thought come from? We can't find where it comes from. So we start, and we do that over and over again, and it starts sinking in with us. This is self-inquiry, because we're examining what's actually happening in our experience. Then we realize that since I don't know the source of these thoughts, they just come out of nowhere. So there's no real reason to believe them. They're just arbitrary coming to me. Now, they may be ones I'm used to thinking, because are used to paying attention to, because I've been paying attention to them my whole life. So that's why we identify with our thoughts. We think we're our thoughts. So we believe them and we pay attention to them. But any thoughts that are self-referencing, like I'm good at this, I'm bad at this, I shouldn't do this, I should do that. You were horrible in that conversation, or you all of that. We don't need to pay any attention to that because that is a belief in a separate self. Because what we're actually doing is expressing consciousness. There's nothing to judge. There's nothing to um, feel bad about. All that does is cause suffering. The belief that there's a separate self doing something or could have done something differently. So we don't need to believe any self referencing thoughts. Now, I want to make a distinction here because it gets a little mm, so the
Wonky.
problem, yeah, wonky because of language, some nuances here. So, of course, we want to believe a thought if we're standing in the middle of the street and the thought comes to us, oh, this car is about to hit me. Okay, we want to pay attention to that kind of thought. Or a thought that kind of has a different flavor to it, if you will, but the kind of thought that's like an intuitive thought, like, oh, where'd that idea come from? That was pretty good. Hmm, that just has a different flavor to it. It's not self referencing. It's like
Okay.
this some sort of idea that comes to you or creative like maybe a nudge like, oh, I mean, we've all had this. I should call Sally right now. I think I will. So I'm not talking about those kinds of thoughts, those nudges, those creativity, intuition. Those are great. What I'm talking about are the self-referencing, that it's about me and how I did, or the same with somebody else. Now, of course, if you're going to hire somebody, you do have to make assessments about whether you think they're good at the job. So I'm not referencing that either. What I'm talking about is, so there are times to assess somebody relative to a job or some other requirement.
Dating, relationship.
Dating, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But we're often going through life like, oh, they shouldn't have done that. God, they're bad at that. We've got this constant
Yeah.
conversation going that keeps us separate. Because when we're judging other people or judging ourselves, then we can feel ashamed or not wanting to be seen, um, sad, all those sorts of things, and so that can keep us separate. And I said sad, so that was an incorrect place to put that. But it's when we're judging ourselves, judging other people, it keeps us separate, and so we don't need to pay any attention to that. But that's one of the best gifts that we can give ourselves. So I've said read some books, do some self inquiry along the lines we talked, like just the next thought. Where's this thought coming from? Can't find it. Um, Now, and one other thing I'll offer, it's a great simple meditation where somebody can close their eyes um, and then know to just get connected with their body, just pay attention to their body, the energy in the body, and the feeling in the body, and then they can set aside the memory of the body, set aside the memory of the body, and then notice with their eyes closed, they can't find an edge to their body. With our eyes closed, in our experience, we can't find an edge to our body. So the value of that is that we also start having this physical experience of oneness. It's kind of, and people can get kind of freaked out, kind of like, wow, I've never had noticed that before. With our eyes closed, we blend right in. We can and experience that. So those would be. Oh, and then not listen to thoughts. So those are about 3 or 4 or 5 things to do there. What do you think? Is that a good
Yeah,
start?
I absolutely love that, and I'm really resonating with not believing any thoughts we have about ourselves, and the reason why is probably 4 or 5 years ago, I came across the concept of, um, not compliments.
Mm,
So if you if I take on a compliment and it means so much to me and hold it dear, and then I also take negative things that
mm,
are said to me and hold on to it and take it in so dear. The negative ones can really hurt somebody mentally and emotionally, like crumble
mm,
somebody, get them to stop, get them to not move forward, get them to break.
mm,
So the idea is to not take the good or the bad.
Nice.
Just other people's opinions don't matter just ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
'Cause you can't, like, just take the good and let that and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
ignore the bad. It's either you accept people's opinions or you don't accept people's opinions.
Mm,
Like, you either do or you don't. So,
mm,
years ago, I just sat and I was like, "You know what? That I get that, and I can
mm,
do that. I can just turn that off." So, I view negative and positive, feedback or stuff
mhm,
that's said
mhm.
to me the same. It's just neutral. It's just words that are being
Right.
said to me. And I've
Perfect.
actually successfully done that to the
Awesome.
point of, like, I'm so ba it's like I'm so balanced, it's almost eerie.
Hmm.
Even my fiancé will say stuff sometimes, like, somebody will compliment just something that I'm doing in my business or how I look or whatever, and it doesn't change me. I don't
Mm,
heighten the way that I am or stand or facial expressions or anything. It's just
mm,
words that are being said to me. So I can totally do this, and I'm actually
mm,
gonna take that on as a challenge as far as also my thoughts about
mm,
myself.
mhm.
That's like the next level. Like